Hi, this is Pastor Jonathan Moore in Outreach Ministries. You know, maybe you're a 5-year Christian, 10-year Christian, 15, 20, 30, 50-year Christian. You know, maybe you sowed seeds of faith to local church, you know, maybe local charities and stuff like that. But maybe you never gave to a homeless or street person. Maybe you're holding on to $500, you know. Maybe you're holding on to 1,000, you know. Maybe you got all this success, but you're not helping people. What does it say in the Bible? It says in Luke 12:33, it says, sell your possessions and give to the needy, provide yourself with money bags that they do not grow old, with a treasure in heaven that does not fail, with no thief approach and no moth destroy. What does that say right there? It says, when you sow seeds of faith, help the homeless, help the street people, your reward is in heaven. Your reward is in heaven. So why not? You know, why not throw a couple bucks to somebody that needs a bus fare? Why not give somebody a coffee? You know, why not buy somebody a chocolate bar or a bag of chips or buy them a sandwich, you know? Meet their need and help them out. You know, maybe they haven't had a meal in 2 or 3 days, you know? You know, and sometimes in your life, sometimes there can be interruptions, you know. You know, just a testimony to myself, you know, one time somebody kept calling me on the phone. They kept calling me, the phone kept ringing. I had Bluetooth in the car. I felt impressed by God to help out these homeless street people that are around the Superstore area. It was in Edmonton, Alberta, and you know what, I'm not trying to brag or anything, and you know, I just gave them like $5-10, and I said, hey, you want something to eat? And I grabbed something at Tim Hortons or whatever, like a sandwich and stuff like that. And you know what, they told me they haven't eaten in like 2 days. They're like, what are you, an angel or something like that? And you know what, I'm not trying to brag or boast or anything. You know, you can be that person. You know, you can be that person. Maybe God sent you there to buy that person a sandwich. Maybe they've been fasting and praying and crying out to God, and they haven't eaten in 3 days, and you're the only person that can do it. You don't really know where God put you in these situations. You can be that person. You can be that light in that dark space, you know, and build yourself up in the faith. Read the scriptures every day. Read 2 chapters a day in the Bible. Spend time in prayer with like-minded Christians. Go to church every Sunday and trust in God that He is going to meet your every need. And start sowing seeds of faith, the homeless and street people, and see what God's going to do for you in your life. Maybe you don't have that supervisor or management role because you're not sowing seeds of faith. Maybe your life is stagnant because you aren't reaching out to these homeless and street people. Invite them to church. You know, say the sinner's prayer. What's a sinner's prayer? It says, Father God, forgive me of my sins and come into my heart again. You know, this is Pastor Jonathan Moore in Outreach Ministries. I encourage my friends, spend time in prayer, trust in God that He is going to meet your every need. He will. And have a great day. God bless. Bye.